What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Wrestling with Johners. This is episode 148, and this is our next interview in partnership with IWE UK over in Essex. And after listening to this episode, go back and check all of our previous interviews with IWE talent, with the likes of Xander, Kevin Isaacs, Maverick Blade, Frankie T, and of course the IWE Women's Champion Riley Daniels. But my next guest is an experienced pro on the British wrestling scene. There isn't much that my next guest hasn't done or seen in the UK wrestling scene, but please can I introduce you to the current IWE National Champion, Damien, otherwise known as Brett Meadows. So Brett, good evening. How are you, my friend?
Good, man. How are you?
Very, very good. Even better now that I'm speaking to you. So, I mean, you've had a fantastic career, and I can't wait to take a deep dive into all of your career highlights, of course. Now, you must have had quite a regular wrestling schedule on the UK scene over the past however many years, and we'll get into that. But how have you coped over the last 5 or 6 months during the COVID era, shall we say, without any wrestling? Kind of how's your mind been? Have you kind of got used to it by now, or are you kind of itching and clawing to get back into a wrestling ring?
Well, obviously, I love wrestling, so it's kind of that part of it is a bit soul destroying that there's no wrestling. I'm pretty good though, man. I'm pretty chill. I live in the middle of nowhere. I'm pretty good at being isolated, to be honest. When I do wrestling, when I drive home, I get home and I'm like, oh, thank God I'm out of all that noise. So yeah, I mean, I live in a quiet place. Don't have sort of main street lights or anything where I live, so it's I don't mind. I've probably seen more people since lockdown than I did before. Because I've seen a lot more people want to go for a toddle in the countryside, and I'm like, who are all these weird people bashing around near my house in the country? Yeah, obviously I miss wrestling loads. I miss seeing like the guys. Not all of the guys, but I miss seeing some of the guys.
Yeah.
No, I'm all good, man. Like it's pretty nice. I've been eating well, put on too much weight. I've now got to smash the gym and get in shape again.
Exactly. I'm sure it's given your body a chance to maybe heal up a little bit and feel a bit more normal as well.
I don't know. I think I feel more normal when I'm smashing it up.
Really?
I think that many years of doing it, I kind of like it's self-chiropody, you know. I just sort of smash myself up and I feel better.
Yeah, I've heard that before. I mean, 2020, I mean, it started really, really well for you. I mean, if you look at February alone, and if I've got my facts right here, you became the British Empire Heavyweight Champion early February, and then the IWE National Champion on the 22nd of February. So, I mean, 2020 started off fantastically for you. You must have been really, really chuffed with how the year started. And then it came to a kind of a grinding halt. You must have kind of been really looking forward to the rest of this year.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, like obviously, because I do the ring hire as well, so I had like a crazy busy schedule for the year. Like, I don't think I had one weekend where I wasn't sort of stonking busy, you know. And then it just went cut and gone. So, you know what you do, man. You know, I'm not dead. I guess that's good. So I will just keep doing what, you know.
Yeah, and like I say, I think that the British wrestling scene is starting to kind of make plans for the future. You've got one or two promotions looking to start up again fairly soon, and others looking to make a fresh start of it in 2021. But as I mentioned, you've been on the wrestling scene for a little while, and if you don't mind me saying, I think you started around 2002, so you've probably getting close to your 18th year anniversary in the wrestling business. But how did you first get into wrestling as a fan, and then do you remember the moment when you realised that you wanted to become a pro wrestler? So kind of talk us through that journey.
To be fair, like when I was a kid, I was like, I'm going to be a rock star or I'm going to be a wrestler. And I literally, that's what I was going to do. So I was in bands when I was younger, and obviously the internet was pretty. Well, I don't think there was an internet when I was that age. So then basically, once the internet came along, obviously it was a bit easier to find. And my mum worked for the newspaper, and WAW rung up to place an advert in, and they had Jake the Snake Roberts taking a training school. So she started like, my son's always wanted to be a wrestler. I mean, at this point, I was older than a lot of the lads that start now because I didn't know how to start. So I think I was 20 something. I can't even, mate. It's a long time ago.
Early 20s.
Yeah. So essentially, I ended up going to this training school, and the rest is sort of history. Like I started with WAW. It was like Jake Roberts, you know. Jake Roberts is someone I saw on videotapes. I didn't have Sky. I was a poor kid, so like I used to get like I think someone used to like lend me videotapes of sort of WWE stuff, you know. So obviously Jake Roberts and all them guys back then, and I remembered who that was. I was like, damn, this is gonna be awesome. So
You must have thought that there was an ex-WWF performer at every training school in the UK when Jake Roberts was there at a training seminar in your first attempt.
I didn't even know about. I mean, I think I went to one Brian Dixon show
Yeah.
and bought 3 tickets because obviously I used to train a lot anyway, and I think back then my mum went, "Oh, my son looks a bit like Triple H," and they went, "Oh, come and meet us after the show," and I was like, "All right, I don't look like him, but I'll go and meet him." And I went to the show, and to be honest, I didn't enjoy the show, and I left. And so that was like quite a long while before I started with WAW. And obviously, I started with Rick and them guys, and sort of that's where I started, and I was there for a few years, you know. So,
so there you go. I mean, you know, you joined WAW with a Night family, and you know, what was it like? Kind of set the scene when you kind of walked through the doors for the first time. And I mean, you know, you said that Jake Roberts was there, but was it a welcoming environment? And did you kind of feel at home fairly quickly?
Oh no, yeah. I mean, I loved it. I was quite cocky. I think I did judo and stuff before that. I think I got the nickname Bisto because I was be like, oh, I'll save the best till last. I'll do everything last, and I'll smash it. But you know, it was. I nearly walked out on my first session because like we got put for our paces. You know, we were running around fields, and I was like, I don't want to run around fields. I want to be a wrestler. So I don't know. Do you know? It's but yeah, I stuck with it, and that was it. I mean, they're all cool. You know, it was probably different then to what it is now. I think it was a little bit more of a closed business then, so it was a bit harder. So you got really tested to see if you could last. These days, I think anyone you can. It's great. You can pay your training. You can go and do some training somewhere, and you know you could literally get into the business quite easy these days. But back then, you sort of had to go through it to get in. You know.
Yeah. So you definitely didn't enjoy the kind of long distance cross country runs then, Brett. But I mean, what aspects of the training did you enjoy and kind of really hooked you and then made you want to come back time and time again then?
I don't know. I think it was just like it was just genuinely a dream that I wanted to do when I was younger, and I always said I'll be a wrestler when I was older. I think I remember in a playground like doing the bushwhacker walk or something.
Love it.
10 years old or something, you know. So it's not anything I've ever had to think about, and it wouldn't matter how much money I got offered to do something else. It's something I love doing, and that's why I do it. It's, you know, and if I don't like something, I'll move on. I'll still do this though, because it's what I genuinely think that's what I was meant to do. So I do it,
Yeah.
you know.
Living your dream, living a dream. And how long was it before you had your first match then? So I mean, you made your debut in 2002. I mean, I've got it down here that according to the record books, whether this is correct or not, your first match was in about May 2002 against Ricky Knight. So and that was in Witham, Essex. So is that correct? And how long before you had that first match?
That's not right. My first ever singles match was against Big Dave Waters of the Pitbulls.
Right.
This was like because obviously he was out for a few years because he had a big strongman accident. So like my first ever appearance, I rushed into a match at the Princess Theatre in Clacton, smashed the keyboard over Big Bulk's head from the Pitbulls. Obviously them two guys were smashing it back then.
Yeah.
In the ring, smashed the keyboard over his head. There was blood everywhere. And I was like, oh my God, what have I done? And I was just like, well, I made a big impact. And then that set me up for my first ever singles match, which then happened at Princess Theatre in Clacton a few months later. That was my first official singles match. I did a couple of rumbles in between, but my first official singles match, I think, was definitely 2002. But I can't remember the date.
Yeah. And those early matches, I mean, you mentioned about kind of your experience of the first match against Big Dave, but did you feel that it was maybe too soon, or did you feel that you weren't quite right, or did you feel mentally prepared for them first few matches?
I think I was mentally prepared. Physically, I don't think I was anywhere near ready, but I'm not being funny. I had a look that was marketable, and they could put me on a picture, and people liked it, and I think that's a lot to do with, especially then, was wrestling is like how marketable you are. You know,
Yeah.
like obviously I run a wrestling promotion and people send me pictures and it sounds bad, but if I don't like the picture, I'm like, I'm probably not going to book this guy because it's not appealing to me. You know, you've got to be appealing. So I think, you know, I was quite lucky that I had a look that they wanted. So straight away I was out and I was like, couldn't do shit, but I was out and I was doing it. So, you know what I mean? I don't
Yeah.
know much
Yeah.
better now, but no.
Yeah. Totally get it. Totally get. And how would you describe the UK wrestling scene back then? So we're talking, 17, 18 years ago, early 2000s. I'm guessing it was a little different to what you'll find kind of, the early 2000s compared to where we are now. I mean, how would you describe the wrestling scene from back then?
Wildly different, mate. Absolutely wild. Obviously, like I said before, it was a really closed book. You know, so there wasn't very many promotions. There was literally a handful of promotions. Uh, so like you really had to work your ass off to get onto these shows. You know,
Yeah.
so you'd end up traveling. You know, I know people like pay their dues and this stuff, but you'd end up traveling miles just to maybe get a spot on a show because there was no shows. You know. WAW was good back then because they ran quite a lot of shows, albeit in little village halls and stuff. They were still, and they also ran like the Fightmare events, which were big events, you know. And you had a FWA that were good then, but obviously there was only really a handful of companies that were putting on big shows. So I mean, now there's a show in every town every week. Not right now, but you know, in the last few years there has. But so it's quite easy to get on shows, you know. But back then it was
Yeah.
hard. You had to put the hours in to get in there.
Totally get it. And like you say, I think we, as wrestling fans nowadays, as modern wrestling fans, we take for granted the fact that, that there is, as you mentioned, a wrestling promotion in every town or every city, and more than one in some cases. But back then, you really did have to travel as a fan and as a wrestler to make a gig, basically.
Yeah, yeah, of course. Yeah, it was crazy. You know, it's like it was kind of good because you did have a lot less people involved. Whereas now it's you know
True.
it's been so open, so blown open now. There's kayfabe's pretty dead, you know, and the internet's there as well, so everyone knows everything. But as long as you can suspend people's belief when they're there for a show, it's great. You know.
Absolutely. Another kind of tradition of the UK wrestling scene are the kind of the holiday camps and the summer seasons. Now, you've done a few of them in your time, haven't you, Brett? Uh, pretty much anybody that's anybody in the UK wrestling scene have kind of done the Pontins or done the Butlins over the years and all of that. So, what's your kind of experience of the holiday camp scene? And is it an enjoyable experience?
I don't know. I'm not sure if enjoyable is the way I'd describe it. It's good fun. It's hard work. You know, there's like generally back then there'd probably be a team of four of you or five of you. You know, you'd have a time limit getting the ring up, get ready, do your matches, get the ring down, get it back to away, get to the next venue. It's hard work, horrible, sweaty, smelly work. But like I would always say it's an amazing place to learn the trade because they're not wrestling fans. You know, genuinely, they're not wrestling fans. They're not like the guys that avidly follow wrestling.
Yeah.
So, you know, they're not smart. They're people that want to be entertained. So it's a great place to learn how to entertain people. You know, so it was
Yeah.
like genuinely helped me loads. You know, just being able to control a crowd. You know, in what you're doing, which is sort of irreplaceable now. And
Yeah.
obviously, there's a lot of people now that don't get that opportunity. So a lot of holiday camps don't have it so much now, and also there's so many lads that people don't get a look in now. So
Yeah, like I say, great learning experience, a great way to cut your teeth, especially
yeah,
when you're kind of learning. And I suppose, the repetition, you've had plenty of matches. And like you say, putting up the ring, wrestling, putting down the ring, going to the next town and doing it throughout the whole summer season. So a good experience. But let's talk a little bit about WAW then, because you have wrestled for a ton of promotions
yeah,
around London, around Essex, around the East Coast, certainly in your first 10 years. But I think it'd be fair to say that WAW over in Norwich, Norfolk, was kind of your stomping grounds for them first, 8 to 10 years or so, and could easily be considered your home promotion for that time as well. You certainly wrestled a fair few matches, kind of month in, month out for WAW. Give us your kind of your experience with WAW then, because they kind of were important times for you, weren't they?
yeah, of course, yeah, oh, yeah. No, I mean the thing is, like, I'll never forget where I came from, and that's at the end. That's why, essentially, I don't know how I would have got in the business if I didn't come in through them, because, like I said, I didn't know how to get in. So obviously, Rick sort of opened the door for me and let me in. trusted me. You know, I sort of ended up with the heavyweight title, and that was really cool. Again, at that time, it was like for me, it was a huge deal. You know, so it was good. I got to wrestle lots of people. I learned a lot of stuff. I enjoyed time there. You know, there's some things I didn't like about stuff, but essentially, it's still where I came from, and without it, I wouldn't be who I am now. You know, so positive and negative things, it's still what sort of textured me and made me what I am. You know, so I was really training schools were good fun, met lots of people. You know, it was good. It was good. You know, did some cool stuff.
And Brett, according to my research, quite a few fairly household names of today kind of passed through WAW, and you had the opportunity to go up against them or be in the ring with them, such as Nick Aldis, Doug Williams, Marty Skrull, and a pre-WWE Paige, Brittany Knight, of course. It must be fun to kind of look back on some of these names that you crossed paths with back in the WAW days, and since some of them have become, superstars in their own right. So pretty good to kind of look back at some of them experiences when they were also breaking in.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, like Rhea or Paige, as we call her. I don't like calling her Paige. I mean, like, I think when I started, she, I don't know, it was maybe 4 or 5. I'm not sure. So like, I've watched her grow up. So it's weird now when I see her. To me, I'm still like she's a little kid, like that. So. Sometimes I'd like her and Zach would jump in my van because I had a van back then, and like the crew of them would just come back and they'd be like, "Oh, can we stay at Brett's?" And they'd just come over and like play video games and whatever, and just so it's quite funny, funny times. Like I say, great times to look back on. It's weird seeing how everything is now and how it's all changed, and it's kind of, like you say, it's really cool to have had like all these people that I trained with and came through with and wrestled and. And we've all done our own thing, so.
Yeah. And I've done interviews with other kind of wrestlers that have gone through the WAW training camp. I think the most recent one that we spoke about WAW was Echo Reed, who's done some tour or some seminars and some training sessions over with the Knights. But I mean, pretty much anybody has kind of passed through that area and passed through WAW and crossed paths with the Knights over the years, because they are quite renowned trainers, aren't they, as a family? And I think they do promote kind of more of a traditional British style mixed with a cross of like the American style. But what kind of key skills or parts of your wrestling style did you pick up and attribute to your time with the Knights then?
I don't know, like, to be fair, when I was there, I used to wrestle, and that sounds bad, but I used to wrestle a lot more. These days I don't probably wrestle, as in the traditional wrestle, as much, especially doing the Damien character. It's a bit more theatrical, So yeah, back then when I was working just as sort of Brett the Craft Meadows, obviously I was always testing myself. I got to wrestle some really good people, Danny Boy Collins and people like that. So in that respect, so I'd be like, I'm just going to try and keep up. If I can keep up, that's amazing. So, I mean, with things like that, we might not even talk about stuff, and I'd just be like, I've just got to try and keep up with this guy. So it was quite different to what I do now, definitely. Yeah.
And I think that's what Echo said when I interviewed her, was it was much more focused on the kind of more wrestling, genre, more kind of ground based, and learning the basics. But let's talk about another exciting time, another interesting time. I think there was 2 weeks in the mid 2000s. You might be able to expand on this, where you had your first tour outside of the UK. You went to Italy and you toured around Italy for a couple of weeks. It might have been longer. There were some big international names on that tour. But how did that opportunity come about? And can you remember much about that tour and some of the things that happened while you're out there?
Yeah. I mean, it was obviously it's like something I look back on in fond memories, and it's also something that made me realise that I wouldn't ever enjoy being on a big stage like WWE or something like that. So I felt I didn't like living out of a suitcase. So it sounds funny, but I didn't like living out of a suitcase, living out.
Not for everybody.
I didn't enjoy it at all. Obviously, I loved what I did. Loved being part of it, but also I don't think I've ever been a lad. So I've always struggled with that a little bit. So yeah, I don't know. It was amazing. I did some great stuff. I worked with people. I was living the dream. lads now that would still love to do what I did there, you know, and just go and work with them people, like working with like Rikishi, Matt Morgan, Ultimo Dragon, Hoovy,
I think
Orlando.
Vampiro was
Yeah,
there.
I mean, I was
Um,
here on a
yeah,
big match in front of thousands of people. It was really cool, you know. Like we did the fighting all through the crowds up there. It was amazing. Like at that point, I was kind of like, I'm doing what I wanted to do, you know. It was really weird because it was very. When I came back, I so enjoyed my first match back in front of a smaller crowd, being more personable. Bigger, I got in trouble because I was trying to work the crowd and not the TV cameras, and you know, it got so ingrained into me to work the crowds and stuff. As soon as you're doing that, you've got to work the cameras. You ignore the crowd. Struggle with that. I love entertaining people, so struggled with working TV cameras only. You know,
yeah.
that
You prefer the more intimate, kind of more personable setting.
Oh, even not even that, like even a bigger crowd, but not one where it's got to be focused on just the TV stuff. You
Yeah,
know, I love that whole being personal with the crowd thing in respects of getting them feeding out of your hand, and obviously it's. But yeah, great stuff. Worked with amazing people. Had a great time. Didn't have to spend any money. It's just like was very well looked after. That was a great company. That a lot. I think. Darren Burridge, Charlie Rage, Domino, who's sadly not with us anymore. But there was only a handful of British guys that got to go and experience that really cool stuff. A few of the girls, Lisa Fury, Minx as well. But yeah, there wasn't that many of us that managed to go and get that amazing opportunity of like just making money and just living the dream, getting
yeah.
fed every night, getting watered every night. Nice hotels. It was a good times.
Indeed, yeah. And you also had a decent run, not just as a singles wrestler, but as a tag team wrestler. And I think you're kind of well known as part of the Devil's Playboys. Is that right? So it's part of a stable, bit of a collection there. I think it Sam Nee, Hysteria, Ricky Relentless, yourself. What can you tell us about the Devil's Playboys? Because you had a bit of success. You had some tag team gold between you and Sam. It sounds like a really fun. And I think you still tag with Sam fairly regularly nowadays, don't you?
No, not for a long time.
Oh,
No,
right.
no, not for a long time. I haven't worked for HEW for probably quite a few years. There's talk about me going and doing some other stuff with them again. But yeah, no, that was a fun time. To be fair, when I was doing that stuff, there was kind of a mashup of I was really enjoyed it, and then I had my son, and it was like I needed to grow up a little bit, so I cut all my hair off. Didn't really worry about booking so much, and I was pretty safe just wrestling with them and not having to worry about wrestling anywhere else because I was so busy with my work. So I was working as a full-time photographer at that point. So it was like a no-brainer. It was cool. I could still do that easily without having to stress. Um, but yeah, we had a lot of fun doing that. We were pretty outspoken doing it. I don't know, like not very PG with what we were doing. But it was fun, really good fun. Smashing guitars, making probably references we shouldn't make. Um, but it was good. It was like very outspoken. We did obviously I'd wrestled in Norway before that, and I managed to get Sam booked with me as my manager over there. That was before he was wrestling actually. That
Right.
was just managing me because when I joined the Devil's Playboys, he was just a manager, and he'd always wanted to wrestle. I was just like, just do it, mate. So we just did it, and yeah, it was pretty shit crazy to be fair. He wasn't a
Yeah.
wrestler back then, so I kind of carried him, and he'd say that himself. I carried him back then, um, and I was kind of the wrestler, and he loved talking on the mic, so it worked. I always hated mic work. I'm not a big fan of it. I can't be asked to stand and try and talk tough. Uh, so it works really well, and it ended up just being me and Sam, and then that was when we probably had more success. So it was just me and Sam, and like I said, got into Norway with us, and then yeah, because the Devils, but people like the Devils Playboys, and so we started getting bookings doing the Devils Playboys. And it was kind of done as a fun thing really, and it just sort of exploded a little bit. I think just because we were just obnoxious and horrible.
Yeah, no, but I mean, you mentioned HEW a moment ago. Was it Hearts and Essex Wrestling? Now, you had a fantastic run with them, and I think between October 2008 and October 2010, you were their champion, and it was a very very long run, but only interrupted by kind of a 5 day stint where you wasn't the champion. And I think you kind of lose the belt very very briefly to Chuck Palumbo. But I mean, tell us about that run with HEW, because it sounds like another promotion that was good to you and you had great fun there. You held the championship for pretty much 2 years solid. So tell us a bit about HEW and your kind of time with them.
It was good, man. It was good fun. Like I said, I sort of touched on it a bit, where I was like, I wasn't wrestling as much because I was very busy with work. I was working probably 80 hours a week in my day job, so it was really hard to wrestle as well. So yeah, it made it easy for me because Sam was like, "There's always a spot here for you," and so I just waltzed in and just did my thing, really. But yeah, it was good fun. I got good matches. We ran some really fun shows. You know, at one point I sort of was helping him as well to push the company a bit to make it grow. And we did the Towland shows, which is when we had Palumbo. And yeah, and that was fun. You know, really good fun. But pretty batshit crazy. I'm not gonna lie. If I looked back on anything in my wrestling career, that's probably the baddest bit. It was pretty batshit crazy times, but it was fun. You know, it was.
Yeah.
I can't really say a lot about it. It was just completely bonkers. I wouldn't do now what I did then. Put it like that, you know.
So when you say batshit bonkers, was it in terms of the match style or the matches they used to have, or you know, I'm guessing you had fun there, but was it the match types that was promoted generally by HEW?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, like Sam loves his hardcore stuff, so he used to end up
Right.
doing quite a lot of that stuff. And I'm not like, obviously I've done quite a few hardcore matches, but I'm not into the whole gigging thing and bleeding everywhere. It just doesn't do anything for me. I don't see it as a viable thing for families and stuff. And do you know what? Nothing I hate more than seeing like someone bleeding and there's like kids watching, and that it just does nothing for me. You know, it's sort
Yeah.
of it's a different. You know, like I was doing a lot of ring jobs for Anarchy Pro in Camden, and that was good fun. And everyone's bleeding everywhere and smashing glass everywhere, and that's all fine if that's the crowd you're catering for. But I think you
Yeah.
have to be careful with who you're catering for, and if you've got families, you entertain families. If you've got adults that want to see blood, then you do that, and it's a whole different thing, you know. But
Gotcha.
yeah, it was a pretty fucked up little promotion. I'm not gonna lie, but
Yeah. No, I
still,
totally get you.
it was still fun, you know. We had fun at the time. So, and again, there's talk of
Yeah.
me going back and doing some stuff, but if I did that, I'd only probably go back if I was doing the Sir Selfie gimmick there, because Damien's everywhere already, and Brett, I don't think I'd take back there, but maybe the Sir Selfie gimmick, you know.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, you spent the first 12 years of your career as the Craft, Brett
Yeah,
Meadows, and then the Damien character came along. So Damien was born towards the end of 2015. I think I've got what prompted the change of character, and tell us a bit about Damien. Who is he, and kind of what's he all about?
so I love Damien, like I genuinely love Damien. So I did the face paint as a Halloween thing back in HEW, and Damien's my legit middle name. So it's just another part of me. And I spoke about it back then, going, "Oh, you know, I'd like to do this character as Damien, much darker. I've been like this babyface, clappy, good guy for a long time, which I've done for years. Even as a villain, like I still got sort of cheered doing it. I found it quite hard to be a villainous craft. It just didn't seem people liked me too much. The problem is now, like with Damien, people like Damien too much. I'm a villain, and people love me. You know, who doesn't love the guy that comes and spits blood over himself and shit? But I don't know, like, so I did it as a Halloween thing, and I was like, yeah, I really like this. This is I feel this, and then obviously I ended up being quite ill. I got swine flu, and I nearly lost my leg, so that put a massive halt to my wrestling for 2 years. Genuinely, like I couldn't wrestle. It was really shit, and that's also when I started World War Wrestling because I couldn't wrestle, and I was like, I've always said if I ever started a promotion, I'd run a fucking good promotion, and it'd be everything I've always said. Yeah, it's got to look fucking professional. The lads have got to look like superstars, and that's what we did with World War Wrestling. But it's another side to it. But So when I was like, do you know what? I did a match for World War Wrestling. I think it was at World War Wrestling 3. I said to my wife, I'm going to do a match. And she's like, what? And I'm like, I'm doing a match. I said, if I don't do a match now, I'll never wrestle again. I was like, so unless I do this now, it's never going to happen. And I did the match. I nearly cried like a baby after doing it, mate. I'm not going to lie. I was just proper overcome with emotion because I really thought I got told I'd never wrestle again. I say it's only because I got private health insurance that I kept my leg.
Yeah.
I was told I wouldn't ever be able to do any of the Impact stuff again, and I ignored all of it. I did that match at World War Wrestling 3, and I was like, I think I can wrestle again. So Damien was born from that, knowing that I couldn't, because I used to do some stupid shit. I used to do like stupid suicide dives and all that, and being quite a big lump, it was like, I don't think I can do that stuff anymore. So let's think about this. If I come back to wrestling, what can I do? And I was like, I love that face paint, and if I'm Damien, I haven't got to take shit. I could just be this bloody monster and come in and just wreck people and bleed not real blood, but bleed everywhere and just be this massive natural character. And that's really how it was born. And to be honest, when I came back, I did it and it just blew up, So and it was nice because it's like as my leg got better and better, I started doing more and more stupid shit again. And now my leg's pretty good, I can push it as much as I want now, which is great. So I start doing stupid shit again, but as Damien now, so.
Yeah, well, I mean, let's talk about that because my next set of questions was about your kind of ring style, your wrestling style. Now, I mean, your style and being a big guy, your natural style is very physical. We know I've seen a few of your matches, and you are a very physical guy. But you can move. You do move at a bit of a pace around that ring as well. You can move. I've seen you kind of move around that ring. Like somebody maybe 50 pounds smaller than you. But tell us a bit about your wrestling style. Is any of your wrestling style influenced by any of your wrestling heroes or anybody you've kind of trained with? Tell us a bit about your wrestling style in the year 2020 then.
Do you know what? I don't think it is. I can't honestly look at a wrestler and go, that's what I based Damien on. Damien was literally, no, I'm not going to lie, it was a complete rip out of, I don't know if you've ever seen House of a Thousand Corpses.
I haven't seen it, I've heard about it, yeah.
The character in that, Otis Firefly, and I literally stole his face paint because the character I love is horrible. It's a disgusting film. It's amazing. It's kind of like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre on acid. So like that character right there is kind of like, I was like, that's Damien's face. Like no doubt that's Damien's face, but on my body. So I did like a variation. Obviously it's evolved into something different now, obviously like way different. But when I first started, the influence was that. And I don't think there's a wrestling influence. I love horror. I run a horror guy page on Facebook as well where I review horror films, and so it was more honestly based on horror. So obviously I'll do stuff in matches. I'll just grab someone by the face and drag them around the ring and stuff. And that's what I mean. My wrestling isn't really, the people will be like, oh, he doesn't really wrestle. It's just very striker, brawler, and vicious. It's not anything like what I was wrestling at WAW all them years ago. It's a very different character,
But your wrestling style, it fits your personality, it fits your kind of character as Damien. It kind of the two mesh so well together that it just totally works.
Yeah, no, I feel it does. Like people even say to me, like, I love the way you walk when you're Damien. I'm like, pretty sure it's just my walk. There's genuinely like Damien is a part of me. There's no doubt,
Absolutely.
Two other characters as well, and they're part of me as well. But it's like. The thing is with Damien, like I can do Damien any day of the week. Obviously, I don't know if you've seen, like I make lots of little horror flicks as Damien, and I've made like little horror films for different companies. And do you know what I mean? It just works because I love horror. It's just an easy thing for me to do. It's a no-brainer, It's just very, very natural to do it.
Yeah.
If it wasn't wrestling or the rock star thing I said before, the only other job I could even consider doing would be to like make horror films legit, to like shoot, direct, and produce horror films.
Do it, absolutely do it, and get some of the other wrestling talent involved. I think that'd be quite a good horror flick, a kind of a wrestling horror mashup. That'd be pretty cool. But to tell us a bit about DOA then over in Cambridgeshire, because that's been another home of yours for the last 5 or so years. I was going to ask, was it kind of like a new gimmick, new promotion? But how did you get involved with DOA?
Well, it was again because I do ring hire as well. Because obviously, I mean, I run the World War Wrestling, and I also run a ring hire company, and obviously, I'm a freelance wrestler. So, essentially, Alec over at DOA contacted me about ring hire one time. So I was like, yeah, of course. And there was again, I bought the ring when I thought I was never going to wrestle again. So I thought, I love wrestling. How can I still be involved in wrestling? Because I don't know if I can ever do it. So obviously, I got the ring and I started World War Wrestling. I started World War Wrestling first, and I was like, I need a ring. I'm not going to pay ring hire if I run a wrestling company. That's daft. Do you know what I mean? Even with a dead fucked leg, I'm still able to build a ring, but just a bit slowly. So, do you know what I mean? Whole different thing to jumping off of ropes onto the floor and actually just putting something together. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so I contacted Alec, did a ring job for him, and to be fair, it was him that sort of I started. I actually came back at TOA as Dark Craft,
Right.
uh, and just didn't feel right. I needed a different name. I was like, well, no, I'll just use Damien. It's my name, you know. But yeah, to be fair to Alec, he's the one that sort of went. I said I'd love to do it, but I don't know if I can. But I could do this dark craft gimmick and see how it goes. And my matches won't be great to begin with, but obviously, I guess because I've been around a long time, it's not even just that. It's just having that presence. And so yeah, I mean, that's sort of the rest is history. I've had a great run with DOA. To be fair, I get on with Alec great. Sort of work most of his shows. I have to sometimes juggle some dates because genuinely I'm very busy. But I'm always straight up with people. I'd always be like, Alec, man, I've got like a clash of dates, this, and I've got more money I can make here, and so I'm
Yeah.
straight. I mean, anyone that knows me knows I'm no shit and straight talking. So
Yeah. Good.
everyone, you know.
Sorry, Brett. I was going to ask a bit more about your own promotion, World War Wrestling, then, because it sounds like you kind of came up with the idea or decided to kind of take the brave leap into being a promoter yourself when you were out injured with your bad leg. So kind of. Is it an idea that you always had in the back of your mind, or was it something that kind of came out quite quickly because you were out injured? And what sort of promotion is it? For anybody that's not heard of World War Wrestling, what can they expect if they go out and try and find it on YouTube, or maybe see a show live one day?
Um, yeah, I love it. It's my baby, you know. It's my second baby. I've got one kid. It's my other kid. Yeah, it was. I always wanted to do it, but it was. I mean, I'm not being funny. Everyone's like, "Oh, wrestling is it. Let's make some money." It's hard to make any money in wrestling. Like,
Mm,
legitimately, if you run a promotion, like spoke to one Magic. You probably know Magic. He does the arcade gimmick as well. He's been around a lot of years up north. I said, "Oh, I'm going to start a promotion. Screw it. I'm going to do it. Like, I'm out of wrestling. I love wrestling. I'm going to fucking do it right and properly." I always genuinely open. I'll slag people off because I'm like, this is shit. Why would I want to pay and buy a ticket to this show? And that's genuinely how I feel about some shows I've worked for and been at. So I was like, I'm doing it. And he went, why? Have you come into some money, or do you want to burn some money or something? And that's generally like anyone that's been in the business for any time kind of, you know, sees it. It's a money drain. Having a wrestling company is a money drain. It's if you do it right, it is. You've got insurances, you've got all the talent, you've got other overheads. It's expensive to run good shows. So I was always like, I'm going to do it properly. So we do it properly. It's expensive to run good shows. I think we do okay. We get pretty decent draws. We get draws of like 300-400. It's like my smaller shows are really good fun as well. I've had a couple of bad shows where I haven't drawn as well, but generally my shows in Stowmarket, we always draw hundreds. The little shows I do in Gillingham, a lovely little theatre there. I mean, the most we've had in there is probably 250 crammed in when we had Bram as our champion. But he wasn't our champion then, actually, but it was before he was our champ. So yeah, I mean, but yeah, I throw money at it, but I get it back. But I think that's you need to throw money at wrestling to make it good, in my opinion.
yeah, yeah. Like you say, you're not going to become a millionaire as a UK promoter, I suppose. But it's more for the passion, isn't it? It's more of a personal project.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I love it. And again, if I didn't have the ring hire and wrestle freelance, I wouldn't be able to afford to do it. There's no way.
Mm,
You know, I see a lot of shows skinflint on talent, and I'm like, why would I buy a ticket to watch this? And I genuinely try and book shows that I would want to watch. And I mean, I do all the promo edits. So you go on YouTube and look at any of the music videos. personally, I'm proud as fuck of all of them because I sit and I put everything together. I've had some other people shoot shows and edit the shows, and I've actually now gone back to editing the shows myself because I'm never happy with their job. There was one guy that I love doing it, but he's very busy, does rap videos and stuff, and he's just too busy. So I was like, I need to do it myself because it's the only way I'm happy with it. But yeah, I sit and spend hours putting all the music videos together. And if you go and watch one of the World War Wrestling music videos, I think anyone can watch it and go, it's made with love. So genuinely, I believe that. And any people that even are good at editing will watch it and go, they're great videos, man. You know, I like to sell and tell a story with the music videos.
And we'll make sure that the link to the World War Wrestling YouTube page is added to the description of this podcast. But let's talk a bit about IWE then, because they're over in Essex, not a million miles away from where you're based. But how did you first get involved with IWE?
I think I can't even remember. I think Frankie hit me up and asked me if I'd wrestle for him. Actually, the first time I wrestled for IWE, I wrestled a Sir Selfie for them. Because Sir Selfie is another gimmick which is just absolutely stupid that I do, but it's really popular. And it was done as a joke initially, and I think Frankie saw it and just loved it, and so he booked it. So that's sort of. But again, I think that's the thing. I come in and people use it, and then it's like, well, Damien's really popular. Whatever happens, people love Damien. So whether Damien's going to be a good guy or a bad guy, they just love him. So, but yeah. Sir Selfie's stupid as well. So I did Sir Selfie, and then he brought me back as Damien, and it kind of just evolved from that, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean they're good guys, you know. Frankie's a good guy. So to be fair, mate, I work with any company. If people treat me good, I'll treat them good. It's as simple as that. If you're an arse to me, I'm not interested, you know. So.
Yeah, I mean, Frankie's the top guy, and I know that he's got some massive plans for IWE going into 2021. But I mean, you are their inaugural IWE National Champion as Damien, and the match itself that you had, you defeated another British legend, Jonny Storm, in a really kind of fun, gritty, back and forth championship match. I really loved the hell out of it when I saw it. It seemed like the two of you were having a fantastic match in there. Two kind of experienced pros going at it, painting a great picture and telling a great story. But, you know, tell us about that match between you and Jonny, because, you know, when you've got two experienced pros in the ring together, you know, you just create magic, don't you?
Yeah, mate, I don't even think we spoke before the match. We've known each other a lot of years. We just go and have fun, you know. Everyone, you know, just that's what it is. Just go and have fun. That's what we did. It was a lot of fun. The crowd laps it up. It was, you know, I don't know. Sometimes, I mean, I work with some other people, and I'm like, not even spoken about a match with them. I'm like, mate, let's just see what the crowd do, and let's just feed off the crowd and see how it goes. Some people hate that. Some people will be like, God, I fucking hate working with Brett. He doesn't want to organise anything. It's just like, I don't know if the crowd. I love that whole thing, like working off the crowd. Even when I was working years ago as a babyface, I would feed off the crowd in respect of how they're responding is how I'd then react, and I think that works really well. And like someone like Jonny is obviously very capable of doing the same thing. You know, there's a lot of things you can say about Jonny, but there's no doubt he's a great wrestler. He's a great legend. Loves to sell his masks, but but like, you know, he's a fantastic worker. You know. Anytime you've got him on a show, it's going to be good, and so it's just. I would genuinely say it's very easy to work someone like that. You know, someone that's very experienced and good and knows how to work. It's just very easy. I don't know. It sounds funny. Some people would be really stressed, but for me, I'm just like, this is going to be so much fun. Like, you know, so.
Yeah, I loved. I watched that back twice, and I loved the match. And of course, you know, I'm kind of doing a bit of a cheap plug here for Turnbuckle TV because IWE are on Turnbuckle TV, and go out and check them out. And so I think they're on the free to see section. So or just sign up for $3.99. You get the whole package, including the Wrestling with Jonas podcast. But let's go to some listener questions then, Brett. But I mean, there seems to be a lot of love in the listener questions for Maverick Blade, who was another one of my IWE's interview. And I think a lot of people are kind of positioning Maverick as maybe a contender to your throne somewhere down the line. But how do you think a match between Damien and Maverick Blade would fare?
I don't know. I've seen him wrestle a couple of times. Seems alright. He's funny, mate. It's Damien. Like, anyone that says like, "Oh, a match with Damien," I'm like, it depends what they want to do. Like, I don't know. I do. I'm not gonna lie. I love a good strong match. I had some pretty crazy wars at EWE a little while ago with some people, and we were fighting all around the building, and yeah, just so yeah, I'm all up. I'm up for anything really, you know. But yeah, Maverick, who? Just
There you go, Frankie. Book it. Book it for the next show. Book it for the next show. But there's a question here from Richard Doyle, and he asks, "What's your greatest achievement in wrestling?" So, I mean, it's probably difficult to boil it down into kind of one answer. But if you got, a moment or a couple of moments that you're really, really proud of, that you would consider possibly, one of your greatest achievements.
I'm not gonna lie. When I did World War Wrestling, we ran a few shows at different venues. Then we moved up. I made the decision to move up to Stowmarket Leisure Centre, which holds 400 people. And there was a moment when the first show there, I think, yeah, we had Bram against Matt Walters there for the belt. I think, yeah, at Stowmarket Slam. Matt Walters is a massively underrated wrestler that I've known for a lot of years that I genuinely think should be everywhere. And I remember we had the headsets on. I walked up the top balcony, which was crammed with people, and I sort of looked over the balcony. I sort of threw the headsets to my missus. I said, "We've done it. So I've done what I wanted to do. I've proven to everyone." Because when my leg was dead, everyone was like, "Oh, Brett's finished." And I was like, looking at this, I'm like, "This is as good as any show I've seen in the UK." I looked over it and it was crammed, and even other promotions, there were guys from Sacrifice Pro that were there, and other guys, and they were like, "Brett, this is fucking amazing, mate," and genuinely, like that was a huge achievement. Becoming a wrestler anyway is obviously a massive achievement, but in my head, it's what I always wanted to do. So I don't think there was ever any doubt I was going to do it. But back all them years back, I didn't know I'd have my own promotion and promote shows like that, and sort of I was there and I was like, I'm doing it, and I looked over the balcony and I was like a little bit overwhelmed, but in a good way. I was just like,
Yeah.
I've worked my fucking ass off for this, and I've done it. And look what we've done. Look how good this is. Look at all these people. Look at this setup. This is professional wrestling, so yeah, I'd probably say that's my greatest achievement in wrestling. Actually,
Good answer.
if I put it back to that one show where, and I haven't got anyone to thank for it, just me and my wife. Like I can't finger point any person that helped me. It was just me and my wife, and there was a couple of lads that gave me some time to help me flyer and stuff, but. When you get these groups of lads and they put this show on, it's like, yeah, look at what we've done. And I was like, no, look what me and my wife have done.
Yeah. Yeah. Great answer.
Really more me, because I was on the ground a lot, but obviously my wife had a massive amount to do with it as well.
Yeah.
I'm pushing it. I was the one booking it, and I was just like, I was very, very proud at that moment, And there's photos now. I look at them photos. I'm like, that is sick when I see them photos from that very first show at Stowmarket. Like, and we had a lot of work. I had a lot of work convincing them to let me run a show there because they'd had wrestling there in the past and they'd been let down. And that's the problem in British wrestling, that there's so many shit-ass companies that will let venues down and damage the reputation of wrestling. You have to work really hard to get that reputation back up. And like I said, that was all part of that. And I just stood there, and the guy that runs the venue stood there too. And I was like, you could see how smug he was with how good his venue looked. And so yeah, that for me, I think, was maybe the pinnacle. I've done wrestling Vampiro in front of thousands of people, massive. But it sounds funny, but probably that achievement right there of selling out that first major step up show where I was like, screw these venues, I need a bigger venue, I'm doing it. That was massive for me. So
brilliant. And who would you say are some of your favourite opponents, or maybe your favourite feuds that you've had in your 18-year career?
I don't know, really. Like, I don't know. I'm not even sure if I have some favourite opponents. Recently, I've enjoyed wrestling Bullet quite a lot because we just beat the shit out of each other. He's a good lad. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if I've got any favourite opponents. I like where Brad Slayer. Quite enjoy wrestling Brad Slayer. He was obviously tagged up with Kip Sabian in Special Edition, and he wrestles for the Knights. He's quite heavily involved in WAW still. We generally, when we get into a match, it's one of them ones where we don't talk a lot. We just have a ridiculous time. A bit like the Jonny match. We just go out there, we have fun, and we like, sometimes it's like we get paid to have this much fun, Again, I don't know if I've got any real favourites. I've got some favourite wrestlers, like Matt Walters. Genuinely, he's the first ever World War Wrestling Champion. For me, he's one of the best wrestlers around. Massively underrated. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I can't really pinpoint anyone. I just love the business. So there's some people I don't like working with, but
we won't go into that. But I mean, we're nearly at the end of the interview, Brett. And do you have any bookings, any shows that you'll be performing on any time between now and the end of the year, or any plans for World War Wrestling? Either this year or maybe going into next year. Kind of any bookings or any plans for yourself as a promoter or a performer?
Well, World War Wrestling normally does summer festivals, like the big motor events festivals. We have about 20,000 people there. Unfortunately, they've all been cancelled this year, so I genuinely don't know if any. I don't know if World War Wrestling do any indoor shows. We've got to see what happens with the government. If I did do an indoor show, it would be one of the small ones I do. I don't. It's a big outlay, like I said before, to put big shows on, and I think people are still very hesitant about filling a hall up with people. So if I was to throw a load of money at a show, I might as well just burn it, because I know I'm not going to make that money back on a big hall show. So I may do one of the smaller ones, which are much more stripped back, but a lot more fun, like the community chaos shows we run. Great fun. Much more stripped back though. I will be doing a show at Standen, at the Bell at Standen. It's an outdoor social distancing.
The Standen SmackDown show, yeah.
Yeah, there's been a lot of kerfuffle about that, but that's all been ripped apart, and now the whole show's been rebooked, and the guy that runs it is a top guy. He does a lot of MMA stuff, so he's a massive wrestling fan, so he wants to be able to put on an event which is literally socially distanced. We've got some bands of street food. I've wrestled for him before there. I'm actually his champion, so I'll be defending the belt that day. But that'll be great fun. Like it's a great place. Once a year they shut the road off and have a big festival, and he has a wrestling May Day festival, and that's a really cool event. But yeah, so that's definitely happening. That's the 29th of August, so it's only a couple of weeks away.
Quite soon, yeah. And the rest is all up in the air.
It's been such a crazy year. Like, I feel bad. I've got lots of friends in it, the same obviously in wrestling, but in the music business as well. And it's hit everyone so hard. It's just it's a really shit time for everyone. So wrestling's taken a bit of a rinsing through all this as well. And the only thing I can say is if wrestling comes back stronger and better because of everything that's happened, that'd be great. And got rid of a few people that shouldn't be involved, and positive. That's all we can be.
Onwards and upwards for the UK wrestling scene. But Brett, it's been fantastic having you on the Wrestling with John's podcast. It really has. Before we let you go, I like to do with all my guests is to give them an opportunity to throw out any plugs, any social media plugs where we can find you, find out more about you, say hi to you on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. So the floor is yours, my friend.
Mate, I don't even know. I'm not great. Check out World War Wrestling. Subscribe to YouTube, mate. I make some crazy bloopers from backstage stuff and that, just making it a bit more human so people can get it and get to know the characters and stuff. So yeah, check out the World War Wrestling YouTube channel. Check out the Facebook. I'm on Twitter as Craft/Damien/Selfie.
That's right. We'll make sure that all the links are added to the description. I put you on the spot there, having to remember all the social media. It's difficult. If I were to ask myself, I wouldn't remember.
Loads of people know it all. I just don't. Mate, half the time I'm like, "What's my phone number?"
Exactly. But Brett Meadows, otherwise known as Damien, the IWE National Champion. Thank you very much for being on the Wrestling with John's podcast.
Thanks a lot, man.